My stepson caught us. What went down next was unbelievable. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. The shredder stopped when Jake whispered, "What are you destroying?" The garage smelled like warm dust and motor oil, a night-blooming flower from the cracked side door. Tom's shoulders were hunched over the workbench where the metal lockbox sat open, foam insert cut to fit folders like a gun case. I'm Mara, 41, hospice nurse, built to keep calm when people panic. I keep our pill counts, chart the breaths, note the small signs others miss. That attention to detail is my shield and sometimes my punishment. Tonight it was both. My gloved fingers held a stack of photocopies, duplicate statements I'd pulled, redacted, and was feeding through the shredder so only originals remained. We weren't hiding an affair, we were safeguarding a trail. But all Jake saw were secrets. "Mom kept hers," he said, voice thin. At least she didn't lie. Tom tried to speak, his breath hitched. We had spent weeks gathering contracts, checks, and letters connected to Jake's late mother, old storage unit invoices, and a credit union box we'd barely convinced a manager to open. A pattern was taking shape. Aggressive calls from a collector who knew too much, a cosign Jake swore he never made, and a social security number appearing in places it shouldn't. If we didn't get ahead of this, someone would garnish Jake's first real paychecks, or worse, put a lien on our house because Tom had guaranteed a bridge loan years ago. "I need you to trust me," I said. "I'm protecting you." Jake looked at the trash can, full of gray paper curls. "You're destroying evidence," he said. "I'm not your daughter. You don't get to manage me." He pulled out his phone and lifted it like a torch. "Say it again for the camera." I held his gaze, wishing I could show him everything without tipping the predator watching us. "Put the phone down," Tom said. "We're already on thin ice." Jake recorded anyway, and a red light bled across the workbench. "Everybody's about to know what you two do at midnight," he said, "and they'll see what happens to liars." He posted the clip before I could say the one sentence that would stop him. Grief runs on a schedule of its own, and Jake's had no alarms. His mother, Delia, died last spring, lung cancer that turned the calendar into confetti. Delia kept a separate checking account and a private storage unit we never questioned. She had her ways, Tom used to say, which meant leave it alone and be grateful the mortgage cleared. The day of the funeral, a woman I didn't know hugged Jake and whispered that his mom was a lioness with money. I didn't like the word. Lions don't sign forms. They pounce. In the months after, I cooked too much and talked too little, careful not to crowd a 22-year-old who needed space to be angry at something that couldn't answer back. Jake wanted the house to be a museum to his mother's routines. The sticky note on the washer, the chipped mug that read world's okayest MOM. I wanted him to choose what stayed so nothing felt stolen. He wanted me invisible. I failed at that. When I suggested we consolidate passwords and put titles in a fireproof bag, he said, "She didn't make everything a spreadsheet, Mara." The wound was fresh and loud. "I'm not replacing your mother," I told him. "I'm trying to keep you from drowning in paperwork later." He rolled his eyes. "Or burying something now." Small things became verdicts. I labeled a box, and he read it as control. I kept a log of strange calls, and he called it paranoia. What I couldn't say was that the calls weren't random. They referenced the name of Delia's old contractor, not Tom, and an account number too close to Jake's college paperwork to be coincidence. Somewhere, someone had a partial picture and was filling the rest with us. That night by the mailbox, our neighbor Cynthia asked, "Everything okay with Jake?" He posted something intense. I smiled the smile I use when a family wants the doctor and I am the nurse. "We're sorting some paperwork." She nodded, lips pressed. "You know the street. Paperwork becomes gossip before it becomes trash." As I walked back to the house, my phone vibrated. Jake's story thumbnail, the garage frame frozen at my hands over the lockbox. The caption read, "Liars with a shredder." I pressed play and heard myself inhale. Then a voice off-screen said the one name I never expected to hear. The voice was the collector's, slick, patient, the same baritone from earlier that week. Jake had captured his call bleeding through the open garage phone on speaker. "We can resolve this amicably if Mr. Jacob Torres confirms his cosign," he'd said. Tom had muted him to whisper, "Don't answer yet." And I wrote the date and time in my notebook, because dates and times are anchors when the boat rocks. The first red flag had actually arrived 2 months earlier. a misaddressed bill from a store card Jake never opened. The second followed a week later, a credit alert ping for a loan refi in Jake's name. When I showed Tom, he stared a second too long and said, "It's handled." That's a contractor's phrase, not a husband's answer. Doubt tiptoed in. We found a letter from a credit union describing a courtesy hold pending verification, but the signature on the attached consent form looked like Jake's name written by someone trying on his handwriting like a jacket. The phone number was off by one digit. The email was right except for a single swapped letter, enough to pass a quick glance, not enough to pass a nurse's checklist. I asked Tom again. He rubbed the back of his neck. "Delia managed a lot alone," he said. "She didn't always tell me." I heard what he didn't say. Maybe she leveraged something after the divorce. Maybe she used Jake's details to bridge a crisis, promising herself she'd undo it later. "Take me to the storage unit," I said. The rental office clerk recognized Tom by name and handed over a stack of lapsed payment notices. Inside, the unit smelled like dust and perfume. There were banker's boxes, a rusty file cabinet, and a tote labeled taxes, though most folders held clipped recipes. The key to the lockbox we opened in our garage had been taped under the file cabinet drawer. Inside the lockbox were certified mail receipts, 2 cashier's checks, and a note in Delia's hurried print. "Keep until paid off, J.T." Tom went pale. "She promised me she'd square it," he said. "She didn't say how." Back home, I placed everything in order by date. The pattern wasn't complete, but it was no longer random. "If this is identity theft in Jake's name," I said, "we need to move before someone takes his paycheck." Tom nodded, then flinched as my phone lit up. Jake had posted again, this time with our address blurred but visible, inviting anyone who knows lawyers to message him. Then someone replied with the exact account number we were trying to protect. The account number appeared like a dare under Jake's post. 4 digits masked, the rest brazen. "Talk to me before you get hurt," the commenter wrote. Their handle looked like a company name, but a reverse search pulled up nothing reputable. I stepped outside for air and found Cynthia by her hydrangeas. "Rough day?" she asked. I told her we were dealing with a billing mistake. She sucked her teeth. "Those don't come with threats," she said, nodding at my phone. "Watch your mailbox." As if on cue, a white sedan idled too long at the corner, then rolled on. When I opened the mailbox, a crisp envelope waited. No stamp, just our address printed like a label. Inside, "Final notice prior to lien" in red. The property number matched our house. The lien named Tom jointly as guarantor. I walked back slowly, heart thudding in my wrists. "They're bluffing," Tom said, staring at the document. "It's a template they mailed to scare you." "They didn't mail it," I said. "Someone dropped it." He looked toward the street and swallowed hard. "We should call Patel," he said. "I know him from a job." My head snapped up. "You know an attorney," I said. "From a job?" He lifted both hands. "He's done closings for a developer I work with. He'll at least tell us if this is garbage." That night, the phone rang at 9. The collector again. "Tom is not your friend," he said when I answered. "We can avoid embarrassing filings if your son confirms his consent." "He's my stepson," I said, "and he never consented. Send your validation in writing." He chuckled, a sound like a spoon on a glass. "We already did. You shredded it." I kept my voice flat. "Put everything in certified mail. No more calls." He paused. "Your neighbors read fast," he said, and hung up. Morning brought whispers. The lady with the terrier paused on her walk to stare at our driveway. At the hardware store, the clerk asked Tom if we were doing okay. By noon, Jake's post hit our local Facebook group, stripped of context and juiced by comments. I didn't go online to read the rest. You don't look directly at an eclipse. I focused on the list: storage receipts, consent forms, courier slips, dates, times. At 3, a process server stepped onto our porch with measured pity. "For Mr. Torres," she said. Tom signed. Inside the envelope, a demand letter repeated the thread of a lien with the day and hour of a hearing. "They can't file that fast," Tom said, but his voice lacked backbone. "They did file that fast," I said, pointing at the stamp. Then Jake texted the family chat a single line that scattered us like pigeons. "I'm moving out tonight. Keys on counter." No punctuation, no emoji, just a brick through glass. Tom called him, and it rang to voicemail. "Jake," he said after the tone, "don't do this angry. Come home and we'll talk." He didn't leave our address because he knew Jake had it, and yet he said it anyway, the way parents recite the obvious hoping it becomes a spell. I packed a small duffel, toiletries, a stack of clean shirts, my notebook, the lockbox. If Jake wanted distance, we had to give him a perimeter and protect him from outside fire at the same time. Aunt Rosa arrived with a tote bag full of forms. Retired court clerk, short, unblinking. She had the gravity of a judge and the humor of someone who knows deadlines routinely save lives. Statutes, she said by way of hello. You can't outrun them, but you can meet them head-on. Tom poured coffee like an apology. I laid out the timeline. Rosa read without comment, used her finger as a ruler, and hummed at the forged consent. Whoever traced Jake's signature practiced on a copy, she said. Look, hesitation on the J loop, a micro-tremor on the K. She tapped the burner email. File your FTC identity theft affidavit today. Police report tomorrow. Credit freeze immediately. Should we tell Jake? Tom asked. Rosa tilted her head. Would he believe you today? Or would he read this as you laundering your reputation? Tom's face crumpled. He thinks we're shredding his mother, he said. He thinks we're picking her bones. I squeezed his hand. We protect him first, I said. Even if he hates us for it. Rosa nodded. Good. Because someone else already loves the hate. We secured a small storage unit for the originals in case anyone came looking. On the way back, a truck tailed us too close, then peeled off when Tom turned unexpectedly. My phone pinged with a new DM from the handle that posted the account number. Deal still stands if Jacob confirms the paperwork you destroyed. I typed nothing and took a screenshot for the file. Fear is a poor editor, but it makes you meticulous. At dusk, Jake returned with a friend to collect clothes. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Your box, he said, nodding toward the lockbox on the counter. Take it to your new family. Tom touched his shoulder and got air. We love you, he said. Jake looked at him a second longer than at me. I love Mom, he said. I don't know what I think about you two. He left the keys on the counter like a verdict. Then my phone vibrated with a call from a number Delia hadn't used since she died. I stared at the screen until the caller ID faded. Delia. Work, a label Tom once used for jobs she managed after the divorce. My thumb hovered. I answered on speaker. Silence. Then a soft click. Then a recorded woman. This is a courtesy call for Jacob Torres regarding your recent application. I hung up and hit *67 redial on my own phone, a petty nurse's trick. The line bounced to a generic verification department, the kind that never gives a last name. We're confirming your income, the rep said. Please state your employer and monthly wages. You called me, I said. Send it in writing. The rep hung up fast, like guilt. Spoofing Delia's label was a choice. Someone wanted the call to land heavy. I pulled the box back onto the table and fanned the forms like a cardiologist reading rhythm strips. One letter from 8 months ago used Jake's school address even though he'd graduated. Another listed an apartment he never rented. A consent blobbed with shaky ink was time-stamped on a day Jake was at a baseball game. Selfie proof uploaded to his feed from the outfield bleachers. The burner email used his first initial twice. A trick scammers love when a service rejects duplicates. This isn't sloppy, I said. It's careful enough to pass on Fridays. Tom rubbed his temples. Delia once told me she had a backup plan for Jake's tuition, he said. She said if the market dipped, she had paper. Paper meaning lines of credit, I said. Or paper meaning a promise that needed signatures she didn't have. He winced. She wouldn't risk his name. I didn't answer. He was begging the past to have better manners. I texted Aunt Rosa, need affidavit links. She sent a bullet list like a dispatch, FTC identity theft, Gov affidavit, police report template, credit freeze with all 3 bureaus, fraud alert verbiage. Do not describe details online, she added. Predators use comments as discovery. Tom's shoulders stiffened. Jake won't read any of that, he said. He'll read only the comments that hurt. I opened my notebook and wrote in block letters, protect Jake first. Then I dialed the credit union's fraud desk and asked for an appointment with a human who could print the original application. We'll need the authorized signer, the clerk said. We'll bring him, I said, trusting a future I didn't own yet. The garage door creaked, and a shadow crossed the threshold. It's me. A voice called, tired and brittle. Jake stood there with a backpack and a face that had cried privately. He looked at the box. He looked at me. I just got a message from the collector, he said, voice low. He says I have 24 hours before they notify my employer. Then he told us the employer he had never given to anyone. Construction yard in River Point, Jake said, naming the temp outfit that just offered him a steady spot. He hadn't posted it, hadn't texted it, hadn't told his oldest friend because he wanted one quiet win. How do they know where I work? He asked. I wanted to say data brokers and leaks, and we put our lives in forms that never forget, but none of that would help. Because someone is already in your life on paper, I said. We're getting you out one document at a time. Next morning we walked into the credit union with Aunt Rosa flanking like a counsel without a badge. The fraud officer, Morales, had a face that had seen everything twice and still expected the third thing. We signed a release. Print the original application and associated IP logs? I asked. Morales didn't blink at the specificity. Give me 15. While we waited, Rosa combed her tablet. County recorder shows a UCC filing 6 months ago, she said. Secured interests in household goods. Favorite phrase of bottom feeders. By who? Tom asked. Rosa turned the screen. A limited liability company with a name that sounded like a hedge of shrubs. Their address was a mailbox store. Morales returned with a folder. The application listed Jake's middle name wrong and used an old phone number Delia had once shared with Tom when they still traded handoffs. The IP address traced to a coffee shop near the storage unit. Do you have camera coverage? I asked. We do, Morales said. But we'll need a subpoena for footage older than 30 days. Aunt Rosa grunted. Patel can pull that, she said. He likes paperwork the way birds like wind. We left the bank and drove to the county recorder. The clerk was young and kind enough to pretend she wasn't reading our drama as it printed. The timestamps didn't match stories we'd been told. Filings on Sundays, notarizations from a notary who'd moved states a year earlier, a courier signature that looked like a cartoon. Rosa took photos of the screen with a casual efficiency that felt like a benediction. Former bookkeeper? I asked Tom as we walked out. He stared at a pigeon. Delia used someone named Connie for a while, he said. She came to the house once with a plastic accordion folder and too much perfume. We found Connie through a friend of a friend who owed Rosa a favor. She agreed to meet at a diner and arrived in a cloud of floral and nerves. I just balanced totals, she said before we asked. Delia was drowning after chemo. She said she had guarantees to bridge the gap. Whose guarantees? I asked. Connie's lipstick trembled. She said a friend co-signed. She never told me the friend's age. Did you ever email a packet to a burner address with Jake's initial doubled? Connie blinked, the wrong kind of slow. I send to whatever address the client writes, she said. Outside, my phone buzzed with a text from the collector. Timeline's closing. Shame if payroll learns after the fact. I saved it and breathed through anger. They want him to panic and self-incriminate, Rosa said. Predators weaponize urgency. Jake kicked gravel. I'm tired of being a file, he said. I put a hand on his shoulder. You're a person whose paper has been stolen, I said. We're stealing it back. We turned onto our street and saw a car we didn't recognize idling beside our mailbox. The driver smiled and raised an envelope like a magician offering a contract. The driver wore a branded polo with the Head Shrub Company's logo, the same one from the UCC filing. He didn't step out, just cracked the window. Delivery for Jacob Torres, he said, cool as ice. Who are you? Tom asked. Asset liaison. The man replied, as if that were a thing. I took the envelope and refused to sign. Inside, a friendly settlement draft, pre-filled with an admission that Jake had opened 3 lines of credit and inadvertently missed payments. A signature line waited like a trap. Nice try, I said. The man tilted his head. Sign it, and we stop calling your job, he said. Refuse, and we escalate. He rolled up the window and left with leisure, not haste, the confidence of somebody who's played this game on 100 porches. Jake's hands shook. They know everything, he said. They know nothing that matters, I replied. They know only what they forged. I laid the draft on the counter under a paperweight that read, do the next right thing. Here's the twist we were avoiding, I said gently. This isn't about marital betrayal or loyalty tests. It's identity theft with your name as the prize, and if we sign anything, we give them the trophy. Tom swallowed. Delia didn't make this mess on purpose, he said. She was sick. Grief speaks loud, Tom, Aunt Rosa said softly. But signatures speak louder. Even forged ones. We filed the FTC affidavit that afternoon. I watched Jake type his name into the government form with a steadiness that looked like stubbornness returning to its rightful owner. Freeze your credit with Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, Rosa said, ticking them off like a rosary. We called Attorney Patel's office and left a message invoking words lawyers don't ignore: identity theft, fraudulent lien, urgent injunctive relief. Then I called the payroll office at Riverpoint and asked their HR manager about protocols. We don't garnish without a court order, she said. And we notify the employee. Good, I said. You might get something that looks official but isn't. Please verify with us. Evening brought relief like a paper cut you don't feel until soap finds it. The neighborhood Facebook thread had mutated since noon. Half the commenters turned on a dime when the asset liaison started messaging neighbors for character references. Cynthia posted, "Real companies don't crowdsource reputations," and for once I wanted to hug her hydrangeas. But predators adapt. A new handle appeared under Jake's original post, posting a cropped image of a cosign form with his name. The notary seal looked real at first glance, then wrong. Font size off, county misspelled by one letter. Connie, I whispered, thinking of the accordion folder. Or someone using her trail. Tom checked the front door twice, then a third time. Jake texted from his friend's couch. If I come home, will you stop hiding things? I typed back. We were never hiding from you. We were hiding you from them. 3 dots pulsed, then vanished. I folded laundry because hands need work when minds spiral. When the dryer buzzed, a shadow crossed the window. Someone was standing on our porch, holding a phone already recording everything. The man on the porch filmed until Tom shut the door in his face. He wanted you to react, Aunt Rosa said. Every twitch is leverage. I dropped the blinds and paced the kitchen. We had 3 piles: originals, copies, and threats. If we didn't control the narrative, someone else would write it for us. We need a package, I said. A binder with evidence, logged, indexed, timed. If Patel sees it need, he can file motions fast. Rosa nodded. Chain of custody matters. Courts love a story told with staples. Tom rubbed his jaw. Jake won't step in a courthouse if he thinks we're framing him. Then we don't tell him yet, I said. We let him hate us one more week. My voice cracked. Better his anger than his wages garnished. Rosa wrote a list: certified statements, phone records, IP traces, courier logs. Get call recordings too, she said. Most states let you tape if you're part of the conversation. I'll handle that, I said, flipping open my notebook. Every time the collector calls, I'll press record. That night the phone rang again. I picked up on speaker, recorder blinking red. Mrs. Torres, the collector purred. Your boy is proud. Pride doesn't pay bills. I said nothing, just let silence hang. He filled it. We'll settle for 30 cents on the dollar. Wire by Friday. Send terms in writing, I replied. And don't call this number again. He sighed, like a teacher bored with a child. Paper trails can vanish. Screenshots don't. Then he hung up. I saved the file to 3 locations: cloud, drive, printed transcript. Next morning, Morales from the credit union called. Your file smells bad, he said. But you'll need a court order to access surveillance. Patel is filing, I said, bluffing. Afterward, I drove to the courthouse to pick up blank injunction forms. The clerk handed them over with sympathy. Identity theft's the new flu, she said. Everyone catches it once. I wanted to ask how many survive it intact, but instead I tucked the forms under my arm like armor. At dinner, Tom tried to lighten the air. Remember when we fought over paint colors instead of liens? Jake pushed peas around his plate. At least paint isn't a felony, he muttered. I didn't answer. I had already scheduled Patel for Monday morning, fraud officer included. The trap was set. All that remained was to walk Jake into the room without him bolting. But that night, Jake found the recorder and asked the question I feared most. Jake held up the small recorder like it was a detonator. So what else are you taping? His eyes darted between me and Tom. Conversations? My phone calls. You think I'm stupid? My chest tightened. I'm taping them. Jake, the collectors, not you. Every time they call, they slip another piece. I need evidence before Patel can file anything. He laughed, sharp and tired. Sure, evidence. That's what people say when they've already lost the truth. Tom reached for his son's wrist. Jake, please. We're fighting for you. Jake yanked back. No, you're fighting for your cover. Mom warned me you'd twist things. She said you'd bury me in paperwork someday. His voice cracked at the word mom. Dinner had turned to ashes. I looked across the table at Aunt Rosa, who tilted her head slightly. A signal, not yet. Don't break the plan. I swallowed the urge to dump the whole story right then, every forged consent and burner email. If Jake believed we staged it, the collector would win without lifting a pen. The next day was the neighborhood barbecue. Half the block came with potato salads and suspicions. I tried to focus on grilling chicken, but the air buzzed with whispers. Cynthia leaned close. That video of your garage. Folks are saying you're laundering Delia's accounts. I steadied the tongs. We're cleaning messes, not creating them. She gave a look that said she wasn't sure. Then Jake arrived with his friend, chin high. Why don't you tell them what you're hiding? He called across the lawn. Conversation stalled. You think I'm crazy, but I've got screenshots. You were shredding proof. I froze. Rosa caught my eye, subtle shake of her head. Stay silent. Tom clenched his jaw until his teeth creaked. Not here, he muttered. But Jake pressed on. If you're not liars, then show everyone the lockbox. Neighbors shifted, their curiosity a tide. I inhaled to answer. And in that instant Jake's phone lit up with a new message that made him go white. The message blazed across Jake's screen. Settlement, terms withdrawn. Employer notified Monday. His hand shook so hard, he nearly dropped the phone. They know where I work, he whispered. They'll ruin me before I even start. I wanted to scream the truth, to show him the affidavit already filed, the transcripts labeled by date. Instead, I spoke evenly. Then come with us Monday morning. Patel, the fraud officer, the bank, will face them with receipts. Jake's jaw clenched. And if I don't, then they keep circling, Rosa said calmly. Predators hate light. Patel's office is light. Tom added, we need you there, son. Not to confess, just to witness. I slid a folder across the table. Inside, a neat binder with tab dividers, consent forms, IP logs, courier slips, and the red-stamped demand letter. This is your armor, I said. Jake stared at the signatures, tracing the shaky loops that pretended to be his hand. For the first time, doubt cracked his anger. That's not mine, he said quietly. I don't even write my K like that. Monday came. We sat in Patel's walnut-paneled office, blinds drawn against the morning sun. Patel scanned the binder, nodding. Chain of fraud, clear pattern. Whoever forged these wasn't sloppy, just practiced. We'll subpoena logs, demand injunctive relief, and file a police report. Morales from the credit union arrived with a laptop, pulling up the masked IPs. All traced to one cafe near your storage unit, he said. Jake slumped into a chair, pale. So it's not them bluffing? No, Patel said. It's theft, and it's escalating. But we've set a trap. Their next move will expose them. If you don't sign anything and don't panic. Patel drafted a cease and desist and cued subpoenas. We'll serve notice tomorrow, he said. Invite them to a meeting they think they control. That's when we flip the board. Jake looked at me with something fragile, almost trust. And if they fight back? He asked. Patel closed the folder and said a name that made Tom's face collapse in silence. Connie Alvarez, Patel said, tapping the forged consent. The notary seal traces back to her ID. She notarized signatures months after she surrendered her license. Tom's lips parted. Delia's old bookkeeper? Patel nodded. And friend. Too much access, too little oversight. These fraudsters rarely invent from scratch. They recycle old keys to new locks. Morales slid his laptop around. On screen, timestamps of logins from the cafe, aligned with emails sent from the burner address. All within minutes of checks deposited to Alvarez's account. Rosa let out a low whistle. Paper doesn't lie, even when people do. Jake rubbed his temples. You're saying Mom's friend sold me out? His voice cracked. She held my baby pictures. She held your social security number too, Patel said. And to someone drowning in debt, that number looks like a rope. We arranged the final meeting at the credit union conference room, neutral ground. Connie arrived in a floral blouse, carrying her accordion folder like a shield. This is all a misunderstanding, she said before sitting down. Patel pressed a button and the projector lit up with scanned documents, signatures, seals, courier logs. Explain the inconsistency, he said. Connie stammered, face flushing. Morales pulled up the IP trace. Explain why these emails route through your cafe loyalty card account. Jake stared at her. You were at our Christmas table, he whispered. Connie's smile crumbled. Delia asked me to keep options open. I didn't think it would spiral. Patel leaned in. Fraud spirals by design. You cashed the checks. You filed the liens. You impersonated this young man. Connie's voice went thin. It was never supposed to hit him. Just leverage for a loan. Jake's fist clenched on the table. You used my name like currency. Connie reached out a hand, desperate. I loved your mother. I thought I was saving. And then the projector flicked to the final slide, revealing one more accomplice none of us expected. The final slide showed deposit transfers into an account jointly held by Connie and a man named Darren Keats, Delia's former paralegal, someone Tom remembered from the divorce filings. Tom buried his face in his hands. He was in our house, he muttered. Patel's voice was clinical. Together they staged liens, forged cosigns, and laundered repayments through Darren's consultancy. They weren't just sloppy friends. They were partners. Jake stood so quickly his chair scraped. So this whole year, you thought it was me? While they cashed in. His voice cracked into anger and grief. Patel filed motions that afternoon. Morales flagged Connie's accounts. Police escorted her from the building. Darren, unreachable, now had warrants on his name. But victory tasted of iron. At work, my shifts grew erratic. Colleagues whispered that I was embroiled. Patients needed steadiness, and mine was cracking. Tom's contract stalled as gossip spread. Even neighbors who had cheered our reveal now avoided our driveway. Rosa said quietly, "Truth frees, but it also charges rent." Jake moved back home, but with boundaries made of glass. He cooked in silence, headphones always on. Some nights I heard him in his room, whispering angry words to a mother who couldn't answer. I tried to reach him with small things, laundry folded, his favorite cereal stocked, but bridges require more than bricks. One afternoon, the collector called again, voice lower, shakier. Our account's frozen. You've made enemies, Mrs. Torres. Enemies don't vanish. I hung up, but dread stayed. Patel assured us law was on our side, but law runs on clocks and predators run on adrenaline. Jake finally broke silence at the table. You fought for me, he said, even when I hated you. My throat tightened. We'll always fight for you. He looked away, blinking fast. Then let's make sure they can't ever do this again. The next morning, an unmarked envelope arrived with a single phrase inside. Watch your back. We reported the envelope, of course. Patel said it was intimidation, nothing more, but still, it rattled dishes in my chest. Aunt Rosa stayed over that week, her presence like a lock on the door. She marched us through steps, therapy sessions, password manager, credit monitoring, every bill scanned twice. You treat paper like medicine, dosage and schedule. Jake agreed reluctantly to counseling. In the first session, he said almost nothing. By the third, he admitted he couldn't separate grief for his mother from anger at her choices. She loved me, he whispered, but she gambled with my name. The therapist nodded. Love and harm often tangle. Untangling is the work. At home, we drew boundaries in ink. Any new loan or account required 2 signatures, and all files lived in a shared encrypted vault. Tom apologized more than once. I should have seen her drowning, he said of Delia. Instead, I let her swim alone. Jake's reply was blunt. You can't fix the past. Just don't drown me with her. We slowly reclaimed routine. I returned to steady shifts. Tom picked up contracts again. Jake's job in Riverpoint held firm after HR reviewed Patel's filings. He came home one night with grease on his hands and pride in his smile. First real paycheck, he said. He pinned it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a heart. Rosa raised a glass of iced tea. To the paper trail that almost broke you, and the one that saved you. We clinked. Outside, neighbors waved again, cautious but warming. Trust, like credit, rebuilds in increments. The threat calls dwindled, then stopped. Connie pled guilty. Darren fled, but left enough evidence for restitution. We weren't rich, but we weren't ruined. What remained was scar tissue, visible, tender, but proof we'd healed. Then Jake asked the question I both dreaded and prayed for. Can you ever really forgive her? I took a long breath. Forgive your mother? Yes. Forget what she did? Never. Jake's eyes filled but didn't spill. She thought she was saving me, he said. But she almost erased me. I touched his hand. People can love fiercely and still make choices that wound. Forgiveness doesn't mean trust. It means choosing not to let pain be the author of your story. Tom leaned in. Your mother fought storms in her way. We're fighting them in ours. What matters is you're not a name on a forged line. You're a man writing his own. Jake nodded slowly. Then I'll start with one promise. I'll never sign blind. Not for anyone. I keep that lockbox empty now, just a symbol in the garage. Every time I shred a bill, I think of that night Jake caught us, of the red record light, of the neighbors whispering. Secrets breed in silence, but protection can look like secrecy too. The line is thin, and I'll spend my life balancing on it. For anyone listening, guard your paper like you guard your pulse. Freeze credit, track accounts. Teach your children that names are currencies thieves crave. Love doesn't excuse negligence, and trust doesn't mean blindness. One hopeful image stays with me. Jake pinning his first honest paycheck to the fridge, proud and unburdened. One practical takeaway I'd give any viewer. Once a year, pull your credit reports, all three, and read them line by line. It's tedious, yes, but it's how you catch the shadows before they steal your light. Because in the end, the story you protect is the story you live.